Most people run from pain. They numb it, bury it, scroll past it. But the Stoics? They used it. They understood something most of us forget. Pain is energy. It's fuel. It's life trying to get your attention. And if you don't convert it, it will consume you. You've probably felt it, that burning in your chest after rejection, the weight in your stomach after failure, that quiet anger when life doesn't go your way. That's not weakness. That's power, waiting for direction. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal from friends and death in his own family while leading an empire, and yet he wrote words still guiding millions. Epictetus was born a slave with a crippled body and still became one of the greatest minds in human history. How? They didn't escape pain. They transformed it. This video is not about avoiding hardship. It's about weaponizing it. You're going to learn how the Stoics turned suffering into strength, chaos into clarity, and discomfort into fuel for a disciplined, focused, and unstoppable mind. And if that's something you want more of in your own life, clarity, resilience, unshakable calm, then stick around and hit that like button while you're here. It takes less than 1 second, but it helps this message reach others who need it too. Now let's get into the mindset shift that could change everything. The Stoic way to use pain as fuel. The pain lie. We've been lied to about pain. Somewhere along the way, the world convinced us that pain is a problem, something to escape, something to silence or numb. That if you're feeling uncomfortable, something must be wrong. We were taught that happiness is the default. And if we're not happy, if we're hurting, struggling, or breaking, then we must have failed. But this is a lie, and it's a dangerous one. Pain isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. It's life's most honest teacher. It doesn't lie, it doesn't sugarcoat, and it doesn't negotiate. It shows you exactly what you need to see, whether you like it or not. But instead of listening, we run. We distract ourselves with noise, with dopamine, with fake wins and shallow pleasures. We silence our pain with short-term escape, scrolling, overreading, complaining, blaming, quitting. And every time we do that, we miss the lesson. We miss the raw material of transformation. Because the truth is, the people who go far in life, the ones who build something real, who live with clarity and force and purpose, are not the ones who avoid pain. They're the ones who face it, harness it, and use it. They understand that pain is not a stop sign. It's a signal. It's energy. And energy can be redirected. But you first have to see the lie for what it is. The lie says pain is weakness. The Stoics said pain is power in disguise. Epictetus was born into slavery, beaten, crippled, and still managed to become one of the most powerful minds of his time. He didn't see pain as a punishment. He saw it as preparation, a gym for the soul. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire while dealing with the death of 8 of his children, war on every front, and betrayal inside his court. He didn't break. He didn't run. He wrote. He reflected. He trained. And because of that, we still read his meditations today. These men understood something most people never figure out. Pain is not the enemy. It's the raw fire that forges strength if you let it, if you face it. But here's where most people fall. They feel pain and think they need to fix it immediately. But not all pain is meant to be fixed. Some pain is meant to be felt, understood, and transformed. Not into suffering, but into discipline, into vision, into forward momentum. But that takes awareness. It takes emotional sobriety. It takes choosing growth over comfort. And that's where the modern world traps us. We've been conditioned to flinch at every discomfort, to medicate every emotion, to run from anything that doesn't feel good right now. But what if pain wasn't something to remove? What if it was something to repurpose? What if your pain is actually the untapped energy you've been praying for? What if the discomfort you're feeling is the start of your real power? The Stoics didn't just survive pain, they leveraged it. They welcomed it like a forge welcomes fire, because they knew the secret. Pain is not a wall, it's a door, but only the disciplined walk through it. Everyone else just stares at it, waiting for it to disappear. So before we talk about how to transform your pain into power, we have to first kill the lie. You are not broken because you're in pain. You are not weak because you're uncomfortable. You are not failing because you're struggling. These are signals of transformation, not signs of defeat. And if you can learn to lean in, to stop running and start listening, then the very thing you thought would destroy you might just be the thing that shapes the strongest version of you. The lie is that pain is a curse. The truth is that pain is the first step toward becoming unbreakable. But only if you stop fearing it and start using it. The Stoic reframe. The Stoics didn't deny pain. They didn't pretend it wasn't there. They didn't slap fake positivity on top of suffering and hope it would vanish. No. The Stoics did something far more radical. They reframed it. They looked pain in the eye and chose to give it meaning. And that one decision changed everything. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they asked, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift from victimhood to agency, from helplessness to purpose, is the Stoic reframe. It's the mental move that turns suffering into strength, discomfort into growth, and chaos into control. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He wasn't writing philosophy for applause. He was writing that in the middle of war, loss, and disease, he wasn't trying to feel better. He was trying to stay grounded, sharp, and unbreakable. That mindset that nothing is inherently good or bad, but thinking makes it so, is the root of Stoic resilience. It means that pain itself isn't your enemy. Your interpretation of it is. And that interpretation is under your control. You can choose to see pain as a message. You can choose to see it as pressure that reveals your true self. You can choose to believe, like Epictetus did, that every hardship is a test sent by nature to build your soul. This wasn't just motivational fluff for them. Epictetus was a crippled slave, beaten so badly his leg was permanently deformed. And still, he taught thousands how to become mentally free even in chains. He said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." That is the Stoic reframe. Power lies in perception. Pain becomes powerful when it stops being something that happens to you and starts being something you engage with. Not emotionally, but intentionally. It becomes training, fire for the forge, iron sharpening iron. The Stoics believed that adversity was essential because it revealed the weak spots in your character, the ego, the fear, the need for comfort, and gave you a chance to strengthen them. But only if you stopped resisting it. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He meant it literally. Just as muscles grow through tension and stress, so does the mind. So does your discipline. So does your clarity. When you reframe pain as training, you stop asking life to go easy on you. You start asking to become strong enough to handle whatever it throws. You stop trying to escape discomfort, and you start leaning into it with eyes wide open, ready to extract every lesson. That's what the Stoics did. They practiced voluntary discomfort, cold, hunger, isolation, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood the psychology of reframing. When you expose yourself to controlled hardship, you gain control over the uncontrolled. You train your mind to endure, to interpret pressure differently. And soon, pain loses its bite. Because you've stopped running, you've made pain your partner in growth. You've told life, "Whatever you throw at me, I'll build with it." And when you move through life like that, calm, grounded, unshaken, that's when pain becomes fuel. Not because it disappears, but because it now has direction. You've taken the raw chaos of suffering and given it structure. You've chosen your response, and in that choice, you've reclaimed your power. That's the Stoic reframe. It doesn't remove pain, it rewires how you use it. And that shift alone can make you unstoppable. Energy redirection. Pain is raw energy. It enters your life unannounced, often unwelcome, and shakes the ground beneath your feet. But once it arrives, you have two choices. You can let it control you, or you can direct it. Most people allow pain to dominate them. They react, they panic, they spiral. But the Stoic doesn't move that way. The Stoic understands that pain is neutral until it is assigned a purpose. He knows that suffering without direction is destructive, but pain with intention is fuel. The key lies in redirection. Think of pain as fire. Left unmanaged, it burns down everything in its path. But contained and aimed, it becomes heat, light, and power. The Stoics practice this mental transformation daily. They train their minds to pause before reacting, to notice the emotional surge, but not to obey it blindly. In that space between feeling and reaction, they found power. That space is where redirection begins. When something triggers you, when life squeezes you, when disappointment lands like a punch in the chest, the first impulse is often emotional release. You want to scream, to blame, to give up. But if you pause, even for a second, you can catch the energy before it escapes. You can choose where to send it. That disappointment can become focus. That heartbreak can become discipline. That betrayal can become clarity. This is not denial. This is not emotional repression. This is alchemy. And the Stoics were masters of it. Marcus Aurelius did not run from the grief of losing his children. He used it to sharpen his sense of duty to the living. Epictetus did not drown in anger at his enslavers. He used that rage to teach others how to find inner freedom. Seneca did not collapse under political pressure. He used it to write his most enduring works in exile. They took their pain and gave it a destination. And so can you. The energy in your suffering can be aimed like a weapon or left to explode inside you. You get to choose, but it takes awareness. It takes a steady hand. Redirecting pain is not about pretending it does not hurt. It is about deciding that the pain will serve you. When your heart is broken, go build something that cannot be taken away. When the world disappoints you, sharpen your standards and rise above the noise. When life hits you hard, let it remind you of your capacity to absorb impact and keep moving. This is not about cold detachment. It is about purposeful direction. Athletes understand this when they use losses to fuel training. Entrepreneurs feel it when rejection drives reinvention. Soldiers feel it when fallen brothers give them reason to keep fighting. The Stoic simply brings that same discipline into everyday life. When something happens that wounds you emotionally, ask one question. Where does this energy want to go? Most people let it go into distraction or self-destruction. The Stoic channels it into something that builds strength. You do not need to be perfect to do this. You do not need to be emotionless. You only need to pause, breathe, ask what this pain is pointing to, what it is calling you to improve, what it is exposing in you that must be refined. This is how pain becomes your ally. You stop seeing it as the end and start using it as the beginning. Every pain is a messenger. Some messages are warnings. Some are lessons. Some are signals to let go. But all pain holds energy, and that energy is yours to use. Redirecting it is a practice. You will not always get it right. You will slip. You will sometimes react when you should pause. But over time, you train the eye of your mind to see opportunity in adversity. You stop wishing for comfort and start embracing the edge. The Stoic does not wait for perfect peace. He builds it from within, using everything life throws at him. When you learn to redirect your emotional energy, you become dangerous in the best way. Because nothing wastes you. Nothing weakens you for long. You may feel the sting, but you use it. You may get knocked down, but you gather data while on the ground. You may feel tired, but you convert fatigue into presence. This is Stoic energy transformation. It is not about suppression. It is about conscious rerouting. You feel pain, you respect it, and then you decide where it goes. Not into more suffering, into forward motion, into focus, into something that adds to your strength. That is the Stoic way. Practical rituals for pain conversion. Now that you understand how pain holds energy, the next step is to give that energy structure. That's where Stoic rituals come in. These are not superstitions or mystical routines. They are deliberate practices that teach your mind to respond to pain with strength, to convert discomfort into discipline, and to anchor yourself when the world around you feels chaotic. The Stoics believed that discipline was not something you turn on in a moment of crisis. It was something you build daily, like muscle, through repetition and exposure. They trained for adversity in advance. They prepared themselves every morning, not with comfort, but with challenge. One of the most important rituals is voluntary discomfort. Seneca practiced this often. He would sleep on the floor. He would fast for several days. He would walk the streets in rough clothing, not to punish himself, but to remind himself that he could survive without luxury, that he could endure discomfort, that the fear of suffering is often worse than the suffering itself. This practice builds anti-fragility. It shrinks the size of your fears. When you put yourself in controlled adversity, cold showers, intense physical workouts, walking alone in silence, delaying gratification, you rewire your nervous system to stop flinching at pressure. You teach your mind that pain is not the end of the world. It is a doorway into deeper strength. Another powerful ritual is daily reflection. The Stoics would begin or end their day by journaling their thoughts, not with emotion, but with clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself as a way of examining his motives, his reactions, and his challenges. He called out his own ego. He dissected his fears. He questioned his desires. This habit created distance between him and his emotions. When something painful happened, he had already practiced seeing it with perspective. You can do this too. Every evening, ask yourself 3 questions. What did I face today that tested me? How did I respond? What can I improve tomorrow? This is not emotional venting. This is mental sharpening. Over time, you stop reacting blindly to pain. You start responding with precision. Another essential ritual is breath training. The Stoics knew that the body is not separate from the mind. When you control your breath, you control your state. In the middle of conflict, disappointment, or fear, breathe slower. Deepen the inhale. Lengthen the exhale. This activates your parasympathetic system. It tells your body that you are not in danger. And when your body is calm, your mind regains its power to choose. This is a physical reset switch. Practice it when things are calm, so you can call on it when storms hit. The next ritual is presence through observation. When you feel pain rise, do not run. Observe. Get curious. What exactly are you feeling? Where in the body is it showing up? What thought triggered it? What memory is attached to it? This process is called awareness without judgment. You become a scientist of your own reactions. You watch your pain as if it were happening to someone else. And by doing so, you create space between stimulus and response. In that space is your power. Another ancient ritual for transmuting pain is purposeful action. When the Stoics faced emotional heaviness, they did not sit idle. They moved. They served. They built. Action breaks the loop of rumination. It turns passive suffering into active engagement. Do something hard, something physical. Clean your space. Go for a long walk in silence. Train, write, build. Movement channels emotional intensity into output. And over time, this becomes your default response. Not to escape your feelings, but to express them through movement, through work, through forward momentum. There is also the ritual of memento mori, remembering death. Not to fear it, but to align your life with what matters. When you realize how little time you have, you stop wasting energy on shallow pain. You stop playing the victim. You stop holding grudges. Pain becomes sharper, but also cleaner. It points to what is real, what is sacred, what is urgent. Use this awareness to cut through distraction. Let it focus you. Let it help you ask better questions. Is this pain pointing me towards something deeper I have been avoiding? Is this discomfort showing me a lie I have been living? That clarity is a gift. Let it guide you. Finally, the ritual of stillness. This is where all energy settles, whether it's meditation, solitude in nature, or just sitting without distraction. Stillness allows your mind to integrate pain. It gives you time to process, to let emotions pass through without attachment. The Stoics practiced this daily. They sought silence, not because they were passive, but because they knew that all strength begins in stillness. That without reflection, power becomes recklessness. Sit with your thoughts. Let them come. Let them go. You will realize that pain passes, that your identity is not your feeling, that your strength lies not in avoiding storms, but in standing tall through them. These rituals are not magic. They are systems. They are ways to build mental wiring that defaults to strength. They teach your mind that pain is not something to fear, but something to frame, to aim, to use. Over time, you become unshakable not because life gets easier, but because your response becomes stronger. These daily rituals become your forge, your training ground, your sanctuary. This is how the Stoics used pain. They did not escape it. They worked with it. They bent it into fuel. And with that fuel, they built character, focus, resilience, and presence. You can do the same. But you must practice. You must ritualize it. Because transformation is not a feeling. It is a discipline. And it starts the moment you decide that your pain is not the end of your story. It is the power that will write your next chapter. So now you know, pain is not your enemy. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is not the end of your story. It's the beginning. Every moment of discomfort you felt, the setbacks, the heartbreak, the failure, the disappointment, it was all raw energy. Waiting to be noticed, not avoided. Waiting to be used, not feared. The Stoics knew this. They trained for this. They lived with the daily awareness that life would test them, not to destroy them, but to forge them. And that same power exists in you. But only if you decide to stop running. Only if you choose to meet your pain eye to eye and say, I will use you. I will build with you.